Hi, in this tutorial we'll continue on our basic DSP framework in Supercollider. So we're continuing on from the last bit, and last time we had these two mic ins and we learned about doing this direct node messaging, which tends to be slightly more reliable. Alright, so this time we're going to create some out synths and see how we hook it all together. We'll just create a simple amplification. So I'm going to create a synth def, and I'm going to call it amplify. Okay, and set it up like I normally set up my synth def. And I'll have a couple arguments here. We'll have the in bus, IBS, and we'll have, we'll just set that to 0 for now. We'll have out bus, OBS, 0, and an amp. We'll put that equal to 1. Oh, and these are arguments, of course. And let's just create a var, call it signal, and then the, or maybe source, oh yeah, sig, okay. And, oh no, maybe source. Yeah. Well, signal's fine. Okay, so, and actually we can just put it all here since we probably only have one variable. So, make that equal to in .ar. So we're going to pull the sound from one of our buses here, from one of our mics. So our mic's going to go out to a private bus. Our effects are going to pull from that private bus and then send it out to the speakers. So that's how we go, just like a patch bay. So that when we shut off an effect, this just goes back to the bus. It's still going to the bus. It's just no longer going to speaker. That's how we can switch, just like a patch bay. Switch our microphone ins out to different effects. Okay, so we're going to do in AR, which is pulling from a bus, and this will be IBS, the in bus. All right, and then we're just going to simply send our signal out amplified. Well, whatever, just send our thing out the speaker. So out.ar, and it will be out to the OBS, the out bus, and it will be the sig, the signal. Okay. And that should do it there. Now, one thing I am realizing from the last tutorial, what we should have done also as well is put an envelope on our mic in so that it comes in and out a little bit smoother and then goes through the effect. So we can put the envelope on the mic instead of putting an envelope on every effect. And we can put envelopes on effects for which they're appropriate, but let's put an envelope on the mic too. So we'll create an envelope variable env. We will back and forth here. The amplify should be multiplied by amp, the signal here in amplify, right? Otherwise, when you change that amplify, it's going to have no effect. So make sure we do that. env here equals an mgen.ar. So we'll create an envelope generator. And we'll just have a simple trigger on and off amp. So ASR. So I'll do env ASR, attack sustain release. And yeah, we'll just keep the defaults mostly, except the release time will be different. We don't necessarily want a whole second of release. Attack will be pretty abrupt, but at least it'll avoid any clicks. You can make it a little bit more gradual if that's the kind of effect processing you're doing, but I think a quick attack is fine. So let's just hop over to the release time, and we can do that by going RELEASE time colon, and let's make that 0. Maybe 0.8, 80 milliseconds, something like that, 80 millisecond release. Okay, and everything else will keep the same. The curve is fine. We're just going to have a gate. Okay, so then we can trigger the mic on and off. Okay, and I feel like I missed a parenthesis here somewhere. No, that's fine. Yeah, so that's fine. Okay, and then we just have to make a gate argument, and we'll make it equal to 1. So when we make an instance of the synth, it will already be on. Okay, and then of course, just like with the amp, we have to multiply this by the envelope. Okay, so we have a mic in, we have an out as well. which will do just fine. And now we're going to then work on how to hook the mic into the amplify. Now we want this to be a remote thing, so we want that to be sort of an effects bus that we can control, say from a GUI that we make in processing or somewhere else, or with our Arduino, some physical controllers or something like that. So we want to open these things up to outside control. So we'll put our OSC defs. So let's have a little section here. We'll call them synth defs, something like that. And then we'll have a section here. We'll call them OSC defs. Okay. All right. And then we'll go ahead and create our first OSC def here. So what we're going to do in this OSC def is we're going to hook up the in mics to amplification. Okay, so just do a little switch. We'll create a little switch so we can direct the mics to the amplification synth def. All right, and then kill it. And actually, you know what? I'm sorry. I can continue to reconsider. But what we can do is really we can kill these effects so they're not continuously running. So an envelope would be helpful. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. And in the cases that it's useful, we can have different arguments, but in this case we probably won't. So I'm going to go ahead and make a var sig and just put that to another line. I'm going to var env. Okay. And what we'll do is we'll have the envelope open when we call the synth, and then when we shut the gate, we'll have it kill the synth itself, so it can, envelope down and then kill itself. Okay, so E and V, it's the same kind of process, equals mgen, and then we'll make an A envelope. And you can choose a different shape if you want. ASR in this case. I'm going to keep the attack time and then make do the same thing, keep a release time pretty short. Sure, 0.08, and we'll keep the curve, it's fine. The only difference here is we'll have a gate, but we'll also have a done action. And we're going to make that done action 2 so that it kills itself when we close the envelope. So I'll go over this. So let's add the gate here. We'll make it equal to 1 so that when we instantiate the synth, when we create an instance of the synth def, it will play automatically. And then when we give it a gate 0, it will release over 80 milliseconds, and then done action 2 will kill this instance of the synth, so no longer be on it. So when we create some kind of more fancy effects with maybe a lot of processing, you'll process your input signal, and then you'll release it, and it'll kill itself. Okay, and that's where this node messaging comes in really handy too. So we know exactly what we're dealing with when we do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and create an OSC def here. OSC DEF, and its key is going to be, we'll say amp, something like that. Amplify. You can call it amplify. Create a function that is going to create the guts of our thing. Create an OSC namespace or address, we'll call it amplify. And there you go. It might be actually handy because what we'll do is have our label from the GUI we'll create. Anyways, we'll get to that later, but I'm going to put a capital so it looks better on the label. All right, and then we'll close that OSC def. That'll be ready to go. And then our argument, the very first one is always message MSG. Okay, so what I'm going to do is set up a number of variables that are going to be, the predictive inputs from the when we send a message. Okay, so what do we need to know? Well, in order to create a synth, we need to know what mic it's coming from, so and what channel it's going out, and we'll just ally those. So we'll say MSG. Oh, sorry, var whatever whatever. We'll do PL for player or performer. If PL equals MSG bracket 1 dot as integer. Okay, so the message coming in from it's an array, all right, and message 1 will be the first argument that comes in with this OSC message, and we'll make that designate the player, all right. And then since amplify is amplify, we'll have a setting. Do we need a setting? Yeah, I suppose we can make that variable as well. So we'll have amp. And we'll have it message 2, and we'll make it a float. So we can control the amplitude coming in from external means. All right. I'm going to shy away from in the effects of making all the arguments parts of the OSC def, because then our OSC def messaging becomes quite complicated. What I would recommend, or my approach here, will be simply to create a different OSC def for every sort of setting. So if you, let's say I create whatever, a ring modulator or something like that, I can have ring modulator 1, ring modulator 2, and each one will take a separate OSC def with those particular arguments in place already in the OSC def, so that my message from the other side doesn't have to be so complex, and I'll have to remember all the different arguments and set them there. I think the best way to approach this is to listen to your effect, see what settings work best, and create a couple presets really, and you embed those presets within the OSC definition, so that when you send it, it's just going to click that preset in, and those are tested effects that you've tried out already. All right. So let's do this. We'll have PL equals message 1 integer. We'll have, but in the case of amplify, we can change the amp. Doesn't hurt to have one argument, and then you can make it quieter, softer, do different things, overdrive it or something like that. All right. And then what we're going to do here is then we're going to do the same kind of node messaging. We're going to create a new synth here, and then or we're going to kill it. Okay. So we're going to use an if statement. And, oh, right, okay, and then we're going to have a mode, of course. So we're going to have a player and a mode. We'll make that the second argument to be consistent. The amp will be the third one. Var mode, okay? And I'll explain that to you. Equals msg2 dot as integer. Okay, and this will be message 3 as float. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an if statement here, and it's going to either be if mode is 0, so if it's off, or if mode is 1, if it's on. Okay, so we'll start with if mode is on. So if mode equals 1, so if it's been turned on, it will be this thing. Else, if it's 0 or anything other than 1, it will be this thing. Okay, so let's break those out a little bit. We will, let's see what's the easiest way to do this. We can do this like this, and do this like that. And let's see if it takes up more than one. Oh, this needs to be semicolon. See if it takes more than one line. We'll see. So if it's true, if it is 1, if it's on, we're going to do this send message. So I'm going to copy this from here. We're going to send a message to the server and create a new synth. So the new synth will be amplify. That's the this is the creating of the synth. This is the same as I mentioned before, the same as A equals synth amplify. Something like that, huh? Same kind of deal, except more specific. So we're going to create that synth amplify. Now we need a index number, a node number, okay? And we're going to make each of these. I can make these all variables up here. But instead of doing that, why don't I just put them in and we'll just know what we mean. All right. So we're going to have a starting index. So I can't imagine, I think we can do every 100. I can't imagine we'll do, it can go into the thousands too. So we might as well, in case we want to use a sub indexing for 100. So we'll go start these at 3,000. 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that might be 3,000. And it will be plus the player PL. So 3,000, if it comes in as 0, will be player 1, and 3,001 will be player 2. Okay. In this case, we have two mics, one from the left, one from the right. If we amplify left, or player 1, it will be 3000. So that's the node number, so it's very specific. All right. And then 0 is the add action, which we keep. Now we wanted to add it to G1, the group 1 node ID, because this is the outs group. G0 is the ins. Remember, group has to do with the order of execution as a code in the computer. So it'll run all the code for G0 first, all the ins. So then if it runs the code for G1, that signals will be in. Those signals will be in play already. All right. And then we have to do the specific amplify arguments. So the in bus IBS will be the player, right? That'll be the mic we grab it from, PL. The out bus will also be, instead of mic bus index, it'll be left or right channel. We'll just do that. So this will be 0, or player again. Okay. And then the amp will just be amp, because we have created an amp here, the variable that's coming in as a message 3. And we can use this syntax as well, just to an extra precaution. Question mark syntax here. So question mark like that 1. So that means that if there happens not to be a message 3 here, it will default to 1. So amp will equal to either this, but if this is absent, then it will become 1. Okay, let me show you how that works a little bit. I've created this function here. A arg b1 is the argument coming in from this function A. And then the var c will equal b1 or 1. And then we're going to print the c out. Okay, so if I do A, if I evaluate that function, it's a function. If I a dot value 4, if I evaluate the function with the variable, the argument b1 as 4, it will come out 4. Okay, because it's going to be c equals b1, and then c post line or 1. But if I leave that blank, if I don't have an argument there, it will evaluate to 1, because it's either b1, but if that's not present, the argument, then it will be 1. Okay, so in this case, it's just a foolproof, so we don't have an empty amplitude, so it always comes in. Okay, so we'll set, getting back to our arguments in our creating the synth, we'll set the amp to amp. Right. Okay, so again, once again, this send message is in if mode is 1. So if that means amplify, turn on amplification. If mode is 0, it'll be turn off amplification. That will be an argument from our OSC message from wherever else. I think we're going to do a GUI in processing. So send a message snew based on what? Synth amplify. We're going to create it at a specific node. 3000 will be the base node number. This is an add action, so add to the head of that group, add to this group G1 node ID. The in bus, okay, and again, I forgot, this is a very common mistake I make a lot. So the in buses, we have to be careful to be specific about which buses they go to, and there'll be numbers. So in fact, it's dot index for buses. So it's going to be actually IBS in bus. Oh no, I'm sorry, forgive me. These are numbers. So in bus will be in bus player, in bus 0, and OBS will be out to the left channel, whatever, or right channel, right? And these will be the actual mic ins. So no, actually, so you're right. Okay, so actually do half and half. Split the difference with my mistake. So actually, we're going to grab them from the mic buses. So that's where I did make a mistake. I'm glad I caught that. So it's not the in bus is going to be grabbing from one of the mic bus, from one of the patch bay buses, right? So just to clarify the confusion, when I create this mic synth already, it's sending the mic in from some channel, IX, whatever, so that's either 0 or 1. And it's sending out to a private bus, this mic bus, either 0 or 1. Okay? And that's why the dot index. So it's not coming out of the speakers or anywhere. This amplify is grabbing it from in bus, is grabbing it from that mic bus, that private bus, like a patch bay, and patching it out to 0 or 1, which is one of the speakers. All right? Under some kind of amplification. So in fact, we want that to be mic bus PL. So if player is player 0, it will go to the mic bus 0 index, or grab, I'm sorry, it's in bus, it will grab sound, patch it from the mic bus that's sending out to mic bus 0. If it is player 1 or the second player, player will grab it from mic bus 1 to the second mic bus, and then we have to be explicitly say index there. Normally in the other way of creating synth equals synth, amplify, and then arguments, we just say IBS mic bus, right, instead of the index. All right. So out bus is going to be player, because that's either 0 or 1 anyways, and the amp will be the amp. Okay, so that's if mode is 1. Try to get this a little bit neater. So if mode is 1, hopefully that's big enough you can see. I imagine it is. Now, if mode is 0, that's else. This bit in here, that will be if we're turning it off. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to, again, that's why we created this done action 2. So we're just going to set the gate to 0. It will release at that release time, and then it will kill itself. So that's the way we kill it, but also give it a nice envelope to release. And depending on the effect, you can adjust that, or you can make it a variable. I'm trying to avoid sending too many variables or too many arguments through as OSC messages. Keep them sort of standard, which channel you want. And in this case, we do amp, but in future ones, we probably won't even set any of the parameters. We'll just set all the parameters as a preset, and then we'll just turn that effect on or off. So let's do this. So it's a slightly different message, but it's the same format. We're going to send this node messaging ns.send message, msg. Okay, and then that's going to be the message in those parentheses. In this case, we're going to do n_set, which stands for node.set. And we're going to give the node number. So in this case, it'll be 3000, because this is the creation node. We're going to create it here, and then we're going to kill it here. And then it'll be the same thing, plus the PL, plus the player. So that's how we make sure we are dealing with the precise node. So when we create it, it'll be either 3000 or 3001 if we have 2 players. When we kill it, it'll be either 3000 or 3001. Okay. Now we're going to set our argument, which is going to be gate, and that's going to be set to 0. Okay. So this will set. It's just like this is exactly like if A is equal to a synth, it's like A dot set gate 0. Okay, same thing, except we're doing it on the server side, so we have to use this sort of more specialized syntax. We're setting the node instead, and that is very specific, so we kill that specific node that we set up. Okay, so in one OSC def, you either send it a mode 0 or mode 1, depending on whether you want to turn amplification on or off. And so that's pretty easy. And then you can add the amplification, or if you don't send it, it's going to be 1 anyways. And then you'll add a player, so you know which channel you're dealing with. And then you'll just have to adjust depending on the number of players you want overall. We won't make that too adjustable right now, so I don't want to complicate the code or make it more complex than it needs to be. Okay, so we have our OSC def now very nicely. We have our framework. We have created our synths and such. Okay, so I'm going to just create a little test version here. We'll just send message to myself because we're not involved in creating a GUI or anything just yet. And I'll just do a little tester and equals a net address. Okay, and it's going to be hostname 127.0.0.1, and the port will be 57120. Okay, and we're going to do n.send msg, and it will be amplify with a capital A, I think. And I'll explain that to you later when we get to the GUI. And then we have those 3 arguments that we want to send, right? We want to send the player number, so this will be player 0, and the mode, which will be 1 for on, 0 for off, and the amp, which we'll leave alone. So player 0, mode 1, that's for turning on, and then that's for turning off. Okay. We do actually need to create a float or an amplitude there. Okay, so we will add the amplitude 1. Okay, and so if we send this, my mic, it should be already going, should be coming in, and if I send this message to myself to hook it up to amplification, there I am, I'm amplified there. I don't know if you can hear that or not. And then I will shut my amplification off, like that. All right. So every time it creates a new synth, and then if I look at s.query all nodes, if I look at my node structure, I have the 2 mics in now, but I don't have my amplify in. It's been killed. But if I turn that on, hello, hello, I'm amplifying. You see it's there, it's amplified, and then if I shut it off, it kills itself. So then it's no longer there. It's just the 2 mics ins are there. All right, great. So there we go. So I'll end that tutorial there. Basically, what we did was we created now our first effect, which is just simple amplification. And up here, we created a synth def for that. And then we created an OSC def, and we're going to follow this pattern all through creating our structure here. Pretty much almost there, really. It's just a matter of enhancing this a lot more effects, which I'll do gradually. But this is our basic framework, you know, 1 in and 1 out. And what we have here is we have the message come in, and we have a couple we're going to standardize these arguments that come in. So message 1 will be the player number, so we know which mic to draw from if we have more than one person playing and then more than one speaker going out. It will be, so if it's just 1, it'll always just be 0, you know. And we have a mode so that for the same effect, we can turn it on and off. And then in this case, in this very particular case, we have amplitude. And in fact, I tested that, and that doesn't work because I realized that if you're trying to do this message to the 3 as float and it's nil, it's just going to throw an error. It doesn't understand. But we'll just leave that for now. And then based on the mode, it's going to run this if statement, and it's going to either turn it on or turn it off. And again, we're using this server messaging, this node messaging, so that we're going to create a synth based on amplify, but set it at a specific node number. And we're going to kill that node number by setting its gate to 0, and the gate will done action 2 will auto kill it. Okay. But since it's a specific node, if we try to send it again, if our GUI glitches out or we just kept pressing the pedal or somehow hit it twice or something like that, it won't let us create several of the same place. Okay, I mean, I can go ahead and demonstrate that. If I went ahead and tried to send amplify there, it's amplified. If I tried to send it good, it said failing server S new duplicate node ID. So it's not going to let me create another one. If I query all nodes, it's just 1 amplify. Still, okay, so I can do that to my heart's content. If I query the nodes, it's still just going to be 1 amplify. And then once I kill it, it's gone. Okay, so we'll end that there, and hopefully that's helpful. This is now pretty much our basic framework that it's going to be used. And for every new time, we'll create a new effect here, and then we'll just create another OSC def for that particular effect. And like I said, what you can do is create presets for that effect. So maybe next time we'll tackle that. We'll create some kind of effect, and maybe we'll start with some like guitar effects, for example. And then we'll deal with specific presets, and we can create a separate OSC def for each preset. I think that's a better way to go. Even though it's a little verbose here on the Supercollider side, on the OSC message, you just send a different OSC name, and then you create that particular effect. So if it's distortion, you have a fuzz, or you have an overdrive, or something like that. All right? Okay, well, hopefully that's useful, and good luck with that.